Peace family, Vie Darling, the Cosmic Queen, and your intergalactic interpreter, and we are here with part 2 of this channeling of this message that is related to Justin Bieber. Before I go much further, first of all, this is a body butter from my 𝗧𝗵𝗱𝗴, and it is the beauty butter. I'm not showing you the packaging because I am changing the packaging, but it is really helpful for manifestation and getting you into your divine feminine energy, and that is for anybody who needs it. And welcome to the Aetherium. This is my spiritual sanctuary where I am pioneering the spiritual practice of cosmic wellness, which really finds itself in its foundation of spiritual abolition. Spiritual abolition is a decolonizing praxis that helps us to liberate ourselves from the chains that bind, essentially, and get free and reclaim our sovereignty. And this is a special series that I call Intergalactic Crystal Ball, where I channel about public figures, and also I guess like events and stuff like that. And I will just go ahead and say that this is for entertainment and or educational purposes only. It's all alleged. I don't know these people personally in the 3D, so just, I felt moved by spirit to make this reading. And when I conceptualized Intergalactic Crystal Ball, I thought that it would just be cool. I didn't really know that anyone else did readings like this, but I also felt afraid to do it because I didn't want, for obvious reasons I felt afraid to do it. But what I want to say also is I don't ever look at people's energy without permission. These people, like, this energy has come to me, like, it's been on my heart and my mind to do this reading for days. I would not ever go and like do a reading on somebody that I know without their permission. And that is that's part of my integrity as an oracle and as somebody who has the gift of divination and has a tarot and astrology and divination practice. So the first time that I did an Intergalactic Crystal Ball reading was because I just had it on my heart and mind to do a reading for Kanye West, aka Ye, and his mother showed up in the reading because I am a psychic medium. I do have psychic gifts. All of my clair gifts are activated. I have had supernatural gifts since I was born. All of my siblings have supernatural gifts. Everyone on my dad's side of the family, not everyone, I don't know everyone, but a lot of us have the gifts of prophecy. My siblings, my sisters specifically, we have prophetic dreams and like dream walk and stuff like that. And I come from shamanic lineages on both sides of my family. So yeah, I have gifts, and his mother presented herself to me and she really wanted to communicate some information through me, which you can watch on that episode of Intergalactic Crystal Ball. But because I am not just a medium, like, it doesn't have to be someone who is no longer alive. It can be someone, it can just be someone, you know what I mean? Like, their spirit can come to me even if their ego is not, because your spirit can ask for help out in the ethers. I know that spirit does that a lot. And this young man's spirit seems to be doing the same. There seems to be something that he really wants to communicate to the world. And so as an oracle, I've been tasked with helping. And it's just really funny to me because when my sister was engaged to this billionaire, he had a psychic on retainer. And basically, because she was on retainer, anytime he called her, she'd just have to like stop what she was doing to tell him stuff for whatever he was asking about. And they say like millionaires might not use astrology, but billionaires do. So I have found that to be true. And I just, yeah, I just wanted to let folks know about the integrity of this practice. These energies came to me because they wanted their stories to be told or information to be made known. I'm not just like, oh my God, I want to know what's going on. I already know too much about what's going on anyway. And frankly, sometimes I feel like I'd rather just be watching TV than like doing stuff like this, but duty calls. This is my sacred birthright and my sacred duty, and I'm happy to, I'm blessed and grateful to be able to be a channel for these messages. So without further ado, let's get into the reading. As you can see, the table's already set, the cards are already set because this is part 2. I just like ended it after an hour and a half because I needed to go to the bathroom. And also I don't want these videos to go on too long, but I am a long channeler because I bring in so much context from all of the realms of all the stuff that I've learned over the years. This is what I was born to do. This is like what I've been being honed for my entire life. So I have a lot of information to get out. When I identified as a witch, I used to call myself the witch's witch, because this isn't stuff that somebody who's just like, oh, I'm just getting into astrology, like my rising sign is my mask. Those kinds of people probably are not going to be like interested in sitting through a lot of this stuff, but people who actually are like committed to mysticism, esoterics, occultism, magics, the supernatural, all this shamanism, these kinds of things, people who are committed to this lifestyle and this way of being, probably because you are supernatural, these are for you. And so I want to say that the first thing that I picked up when I have notes that I channeled when I was meditating, as well as when I pulled his chart and did numerology. I pulled both the natal chart and the progress chart. And if you are an energy worker, if you are a Reiki practitioner, which is essentially the same thing, if you have like healing gifts that you can do in the ethers, I would really recommend that you send healing towards this person right now. Their spirit has the agency to reject or accept whatever it wants to, and just, I would say, make the offering, because that is something that came through very clearly. Helping to purge this person's heart of the shadow that has been instilled in it, because it was heavy. And like, this is the kind of energy where this person could die of heartbreak. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, when I was pulling this, it's like it could go multiple ways, but one option that it definitely could go to is like him just struggling for the rest of his life, which wouldn't be too long, and eventually dying of the effects of heartbreak, which could be, substance use disorder, alcoholism, or just like trigger warning. And this whole video, trigger warning, if you are sensitive about like trauma, abuse, sexual stuff, like injustice, if that's gonna trigger you, if cussing is gonna trigger you, you should get off this video right now. But because of all of like the what happens to people when they have unhealed trauma, unaliving oneself, all this kind of stuff, like he could die because of heartbreak. But it's only something that could happen. It's not a definite. I want to make that clear, because of the sheer magnitude of the things that he's been through. So heart chakra cleaning, high heart chakra integration, throat chakra cleansing, as well. I am getting like a lot of like phlegm and mucus in my throat chakra right now. Excuse me if that's like gross to anyone, but it's true, and it's because he has a lot of things that he wants to communicate that he hasn't been able to, because there are consequences for him speaking overtly and honestly about these things. Confirmation verb, solar plexus activation, but he needs help and support in this, is what I have been communicated to, or what's been communicated to me about. And with this row, with the 𝗪-Rider-Waite deck, I just want to say that like part of the reason why, okay, let's talk about what's happening in the cosmos right now when I'm recording this. Pluto has just moved into Aquarius, which means that all of these abuses of power, and there is like noise outside, I apologize for that, but I am reading that as like, this is stuff that they really don't want people to know about this. They really want to distract people from this kind of stuff, the things that I'm saying. But just don't get distracted, period. It's not that hard. You know what I mean? Just choose what you're going to give your energy and your focus and your attention to. It's actually not that hard. But also don't burn yourself out. Pluto has moved into Aquarius, and it is right now at this very moment, it's retrograde. I believe it's moved back to 1 degree. It's going to move back into Capricorn. But with the energy that we're dealing with Pluto, like Pluto in Aquarius, this is the revelation. Sorry, when I keep moving my hands, the camera like adjusts, and I hope that's not giving anyone seasickness. I'm so sorry. But like, this is the revelation of all of these. What's been hidden is coming to light. What's done in the dark always comes to light. That is a saying that I've heard since childhood. And my mom would say that about like when we would do secret stuff, but I mean, we did stuff in secret because she wasn't trustworthy, and like, yeah, it was just like really, she was very strict about things that other people felt were like normal anyway. And so, that's why we would do stuff in secret. But secret, basically, it was even things like me getting a second lobe piercing I had to do in secret and not ask about it, because like I wouldn't have been allowed to get it if I had asked about it. But so what's done in the dark always comes to light. She definitely found out that I had that second lobe, and then when I got my third lobe, she was like, don't do it again. And I was like, I didn't do anything, because I didn't pierce it, someone else pierced it. But that's semantics. My point is, what's done in the dark will always come to light, and with Pluto in Aquarius, it is coming to light. And people who've abused power, a lot of them have been scrambling to do damage control, scrambling to displace the burden of guilt, which is karmic retribution, so that they'll never have to experience the consequences of their action. This has looked like them trying to bind themselves spiritually and energetically to chosen ones, so that one, chosen ones will work through their karma and they won't have to work through their karma, and two, so that they can like kind of like slip through the cracks and be hidden in the chosen one's energy. That's not being allowed to happen. It's actually such a fucking stupid like Trojan horse idea. Like, I just can't even believe that anybody who actually knows anything about like metaphysics would even think that something like that would work, and it's not working. If you're somebody who has been experiencing this destiny swapping shit, like, it's not gonna work. It's just like so much easier to not do terrible things. It's just so much easier, you know what I mean? But I think he was born in a full moon, apparently. Anyway, I'm looking at his chart. But so what is really interesting to me, I wrote this down. Pluto was stationing retrograde when he was born. And to me, that means that he was a harbinger of change. And like the vanguard of systemic change and the vanguard of redistribution of power. And what I also channeled was his childhood was sacrificed to 𝗵 or 𝗵𝗱𝗲, harnessing his starlight and crystalline energy as a dark battery to power the machine. Making sure we are on the right path, making necessary changes. So to be born with Pluto stationing retrograde as this vanguard, if you will, with Pluto in Scorpio, in the first house. The first house, confirmation, the first house has to do with our primal energy. It has to do with our creative power, which actually, like, the fifth house really has to do with creativity. But this is like our raw prima materia. If you know anything about alchemy, this is the prima materia, our innate essence, right? So I always feel like it has a lot to do with childhood in ways that, like, and childhood trauma in ways that the fifth house does not. But his fifth house is in Pisces, where he has a minor stellium. But also in Scorpio, so he has Pluto at 29 degrees. That's the final degree of Scorpio. This is closing out a cycle. His presence is, he is an embodiment of a closing out of a cycle. And particularly with Pluto in its shadow element, and we know that we've been coming out of the shadow of Pisces, the age of Pisces, the Piscean age, if you will. And I also just want to say, these are not nebulous abstract ideas. Like, these are actually based on, like, where the planet is and its transits through these constellations. So there was an age of Aries, there's an age of Pisces, there's an age of there's an age of Aquarius, and an age of Capricorn. There are many different ages. They last about 2,000 years, and yeah, that's really all that I can say about that. So just, you know, look it up. But so this is, like, because of Pisces, the influence of Pisces, I do feel like we get this, like, shadow energy of Scorpio energy, and it is actually coming into Aries energy, Sagittarius energy. So his experience is ushering us into higher philosophies and higher realms of consciousness, a higher consciousness understanding of power dynamics. And that doesn't have to be something that's abstract. It's just an understanding of, like, how do power dynamics work? If you live in a hierarchical system where the people on the bottom of the hierarchy are oppressed in order to create vast amounts of privilege for people who are ascending, and you get to the top and they have all of the privilege, and the least amount of disenfranchisement and exploitation, and the people at the bottom have the least privilege, the worst quality of life, and they don't have any they don't really have any material or social privilege in a way, which is never actually true. A sociological understanding of what some philosophers call the invisible backpack. That's a term that you might want to look up. I learned about it in a women's and gender studies course that I took many a moon ago, but it's always more nuanced and complex than what we think on the surface. But essentially, like, that is an abuse of power. That is that's an imbalance of power. And so what this energy is about, I feel, with this 29 degrees of Pluto. And yeah, why don't we look up Pluto Sabian symbols? Why don't we just look it up, what it is specifically, of Scorpio. An indigenous American squaw pleading to the chief for the lives of her children. So I'm guessing that's like the word for a woman. I'm looking it up. The English word squaw is an ethnic and sexual slur historically used for indigenous North American women. Contemporary use of the term, especially by non-natives, is considered derogatory, misogynistic, and racist. Okay, I apologize. I'm disgusted. I often have to change the language of these Sabian symbols because they're so outdated. An indigenous American woman pleading to the chief for the lives of her children. Love as a principle of redemption. Here the soul is presented as a mother whose sons, her active energies, have become disruptive forces in the collective life of the tribe. I do want to note that that kind of speaks to the devolution of Shiva, and Shakti births Shiva. Shiva is this like divine masculine, external, expressional energy, and at the end of the descension down the mortal coil, or whatever, Shiva is Kali. Kali is the expression of Shakti that must destroy all of the mess that's been made throughout time in this karmic practice, and eventually she destroys Shiva as well, and unfortunately she destroys Shiva as well, but she also becomes the cosmic mother again. So I just think that that's important to note. She seeks to counteract the karma of their misdeeds through her love and implorations. There you go. The soul is responsive to the experience of unity, the spiritual king or chief, but the energies of human nature often follow their self-seeking divisive tendencies. This is the fourth symbol of the 48th sequence. It presents us with the value of prayer, the principle of wholeness in humanity. The soul acts to offset or attenuate the dictates of karma. In a religious sense, Mary, the mother, is seen as the mediatrix or creatrix. The mediatrix, a medium, I'll just read it because it says it there too. In constant acts of intercession for the sake of waylaid individuals. Yeah, so in a way I feel like this is like being born to some of us, and something that I picked up in this chart as well, not the chart but in his numerology, with the soul urge 7, which is related to Neptune, and I feel like that once again speaks to this crystalline nature. Neptune has to do with the crystallines, Christ consciousness, Pisces, the fish. This is why I say crystallines are the Christendom, the crystallines are a marine kingdom or a marine sovereign domain. And if you do any research about early Christianity and marine kingdoms. But so intellectual desire for learning, I do feel like part of his mission for coming to Earth is a lot of what most light workers' mission for coming to Earth is, most crystallines' mission for coming to Earth is, and it is in part, yes, to do healing, but you have to heal yourself in order to heal others. That's how we learn how to heal, especially if we've never been to Earth before. And to come to Earth and have an Earthling experience, because we have to learn how to heal Earthlings through being an Earthling and having that experience and having the experience of healing ourselves. And I do feel like this is what this is saying. It is to heal the abuses, to help heal the abuses of power, the long lineage of abuse of power. Spirit's like, take a break. But I just want to get through this reading because, like, if I'm on a thread, I just want to, like, finish it. So hopefully I can finish this reading in the next, you know, hour. But yeah, we also have the North Node, which is almost conjunct at 27 degrees. This is just, and Jupiter retrograde, like, come on. Expansion of consciousness. This is like everything that I just said. This is to liberate, once again, to liberate folks from bondage. And when you are indoctrinated into a slave society's, the culture of a slave society, which the colony is, you are in bondage mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. You don't have to have, like, chains on you to be in bondage. The economic system has the proletariat in wage slavery, period. And like I said before, like, the system of the record industry specifically, so there's a studio system with film, and then there's the record industry, and that's a different kind of, like, system. But specifically in regards to the record industry, that is a form of usury, and that is a form of slavery through debt and exploitation as well. So yeah, to experience these myriad forms of being in captivity, being in bondage. And I've talked about this before, like, when you're in bondage, we have the literal genetic memory of being in bondage and going through the process of colonization, which was a violent, brutal experience. It's not like people just chose to become this way. Like, they were forced into it with savage brutality. And when you're in bondage and it's not really physically evident, other people, like, you can get up and get out of it at any time. This is the wisdom that the Devil card and tarot teaches us. But people are going to definitely, like, this energy, this ego, this maladaptive, bloated, unhealthy, sick, imbalanced ego is going to continue to tell you that you shouldn't do it. It's not safe. It's not good. Like, they're going to shame you. They're going to castigate you. They're going to find any way to encourage you to keep yourself in bondage, because it's you who has to liberate yourself, because they have made it so that you are the one imprisoning yourself. And so getting out of bondage and the process of, like, remembering and doing the shadow work, a lot of that, and, like, divesting from it, you have to go through the wilderness to develop your sovereignty and to really entrench it, like climbing up that mountain. And suddenly you get to a point where you're at Heaven's Gate, and, like, you can walk through that gate. And that's the hardest part, when you're being attacked, basically, and, like, you feel like you're at rock bottom, but actually you are at the pinnacle of spiritual enlightenment. Because when you really commit to your liberation and your freedom, and you go through with it, like, you heal that thread, you heal that timeline. And eventually it doesn't really happen to you anymore, because a lot of the time we find ourselves in these kinds of situations because of the choices that we make. But we're groomed and indoctrinated into making those choices. We have to start doing things differently, and then we find ourselves in a different life. And that can be really hard for people who are addicted to the life and the settings and the people, places, and things that occupied their space when they were still sick. You cannot heal and stay sick at the same time. And a lot of people want to stay in the same sick ass environment, but also they want to heal. You have to choose one or the other. And it seems to me like he's choosing to heal. But I do think that he is afraid of what he could lose. And part of it is also like being afraid of like the repercussions. Because if you remember, part of the 𝗪𝗚 case against Sean Combs is about amassing surveillance footage to blackmail people with. And this is a tactic that he learned from his mentor, Clive Davis. And I believe Clive Davis learned this from J. Edgar Hoover, who learned this from a specific mafia, not the Italian mafia, but the Jewish mafia. That's the story. That's the historical context of that. And that's a lot of what these parties were about, allegedly, especially according to the case, the RICO case that is in the courts now federally. So I think that he really wants to be a part of this case, but he can't, for whatever reason he can't be. I think litigation wise, he may be under an NDA, but also litigation wise, he may not be able to speak about things. It might have to do with the contracts that he had from his childhood. Because if you remember, he was under the custody of people who weren't his parents. He was under the custody of like Scooter Braun, Sean Combs, Usher, and he was being like raised by them in the industry basically. And so I do think that like, one, obviously they probably have a lot on him, but two, he probably has like things that he's not allowed to say legally, otherwise he could lose a lot. Not just legally, but also like spiritually and emotionally. Like if he falls out of line, becoming a target, much like Kanye, or much like Ye, much like just a lot of these people essentially that you see being demonized and villainized, especially when they start acting out because of their trauma. It's already easy for people to think the worst of them. And I think what he wants is like, he wants his fans to not lose faith in him. I think he really wants forgiveness, but it's like, you don't have to be sorry to anyone. You don't owe anyone anything. You're not guilty to anybody on earth. Like, if you were forced to do things against your will, and if you were not able to give consent because you were a child and you were manipulated, and like, if you were victimized, yeah, you have to atone for causing harm, but like, you know, it's not like you can escape all culpability. But like, I just feel, yeah, this understanding that like, one, we are all unconditionally loved by the Creator, by the Most High, and the Holy Spirit. That's just one thing that I want to communicate. Two, I think also he wants survivors to know that you are not bad. You are not bad. You are not, you're not, like, even if you caused harm because you were coerced and pressured into causing harm, like, that is bad, but you are not bad. And there is atonement for everybody who seeks it. In Christianity, they call this repentance. I learned about the Judaic practice of atonement from Rabbi Danya Ruttenberg. And that's the practice that I use. I use it the way that Danya outlined it. And I mean, this is even in 12 steps. That's when people are like making amends. But that's not really made clear in Christianity. Like, it's just like, oh, repent. But what does that even mean? Okay, stop doing that bad thing. That's like, but you're not balancing the scales of karma, the scales of justice. Ma'at is showing up, Athena is showing up. You're not balancing the scales of justice. And if you want to balance the scales of justice because of harm that you cause, he's also talking for people who like have caused harm because of addiction, have caused harm because of just like trauma responses. You know what I mean? Like people who've been traumatized and they harmed others because of their trauma. You can never go so far that you can't return home. This is why he loved 𝗧 so much, is because he knew that 𝗧, like, also, without really having these words and without knowing it, was a crystalline of this, like, lineage. But, you know, really had a love of, well, I'm going to use this language that's coming up, really had a love of God. But, you know, and I said this in that intergalactic crystal ball, like, it doesn't excuse the things that he's done or the things that he does. He is an abuser. He is an abusive person. And yes, we can understand that he's sick and that, you know, he deep down inside has a pure heart and a pure soul, but it's his karma. He has to be accountable to it. Your mind is sick. You got to get your mind right, and you have to be accountable to your karma. Those are your actions, the things that you said, the things that you did, instead of making excuses all the time. That's what I'm picking up. Well, that's also what I feel personally, but that's why he loved being around him, because he felt like he was a safer place. Brothers of the Rose. He felt like he was a safer place for him. I'm picking up something of like, I don't think that these men's mothers knew what was going on. And I feel like for this young man, this idea, like, he's so sorry to his mom. But why are you sorry to your mom? He hurt her, you know, is what he's saying. He's sorry because he hurt her. But, and that's real. That's real. It's good to be sorry for hurting somebody. And, I hope that you can be, I hope that anybody who has hurt someone that they loved can be forgiven. And that people can have compassion. Well, this is why every time I see this person's picture, I just want to cry, because, like, since this energy has been coming to me, I just feel like this person has such a pure heart and soul, and is just, like, really broken and really in need of support. His birth time is 0056 allegedly, so it's 00, and it becomes 56, breaks down numerologically to 11. This is a master number. This is about carrying that crystalline DNA. And we sense one another. We sense one another who has crystalline DNA. And we sense people from our soul tribe, from our soul group. And other people also can sense that you're not like them. And this is why people will oftentimes be, for those of us who have this kind of energy about us, they'll be intimidated by you automatically. They will always objectify and deify you. They can't help it. And they will iconize you. This is what I was saying about the iconography of the star, which seems so far away and inaccessible, versus the sun. And he's saying like he wishes that people would stop looking to the stars and start seeing the sun. We are all the sun. This is something that my teacher 𝗶𝗱𝗲 teaches, and you can find him on YouTube, 𝗶𝗱𝗲 TV, or Ancestral Spirit, African Spiritual Connections, I think it's called. But I've been working with 𝗶𝗱𝗲 for almost 3 years now, and it has revolutionized my life. But you know, it is African spirituality, so just be mindful about that. You don't want to go messing with things that you don't have authority to mess with. Otherwise, you could even die, because people have died before messing with things that aren't for them. But 𝗶𝗱𝗲 also speaks about that, like, you are the sun. The sun is in you. That divine spark is within you. This flow, the living waters, that is what Christ is, the crystalline waters. And with the sun, Christ consciousness, like, is activating the high heart chakra, flowing through you, so that you can be your own sovereign, so that you can know that you yourself are a child of God, so that you can be the sun in your own life and stop giving your sovereignty away to others. I'm looking at this devil card here, and it's like, he's just like, I didn't know. And I was told. He was groomed, essentially. Like, he was really, it's not even just, grooming is not even the right word. It is being inculcated into a cult. That's what he experienced. And I feel like sometimes, it's saying like sometimes they are not able to continue, like, a certain level of the ritual magics abuse that was upon him, ritual magics. And I've channeled this before, but Sean Combs is definitely like from the 𝗁𝗲 tribe. I've channeled this before, like over a year ago, and I'm just seeing his face. I think they're forest people, but I don't remember. I have to look at the map. But yeah, serving this shadow, he is just of that same lineage and of that same bloodline. He has the dragon DNA, so he can do certain things that like those without it can't do. He himself is a lackey to people who are controlling him. And what I'm picking up is like the fall guy. I'm hearing you don't want to know how deep this goes. And I'm also hearing like a comparison of like the dwarves dug too deep. They got greedy, they dug too deep into the mines of Moria, and they awakened the Balrog, an ancient evil in Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. And that is what happened. This Balrog, okay, so this Balrog was in Tartarus. And the Balrog is a Maiar, and the Maiar are essentially like the equivalent of, I think, the archangels. So they are lower ranking divine beings, but they are comparable to the archangels. And the Balrog has that level of power but they were corrupted by this original evil, if you want to call it that, who was Morgoth, aka Melkor. I channeled this in another video that, as I said, I'm going to be uploading soon, but 44 on the timer. I'm getting confirmation verbs like crazy. Morgoth/Melkor. I think his name was Morgoth, and then it became Melkor when he came into Arda, when he came into like the material, he manifested in the world with the Valar. But he is the original evil, and he did his evil outside of time, and it manifested inside of time, so inside of the karmic realm, and that is an aberration that has to be fixed. He made the discord from the very beginning, out when they were creating the universe, when they were singing the universe into being. He made the discord by like literally discordant tones. And so, of course, that manifested in the universe that they created, which was called Arda. And this is just a parallel that I'm using. And so this, the Maiar, so the orcs are the bastardized, corrupted elves Melkor tortured into being orcs. And the Balrogs were Maiar that were turned into that. So this is why people will say angels and demons are the same thing. They are cut from the same cloth. They are just different polarities of the same thing. Fae, a lot of people talk about fairies. They don't know what they're talking about. I literally did like my junior year research project. I was in a special research program when I was in high school. I had to choose to join it in 8th grade, and I did my junior year research project on these like mystical creatures, focusing on the Fae, the 𝗔𝗕𝗢𝗨 especially. And this is that bloodline, these original creators. This exists within Celtic mythos specifically, they didn't consider it mythos. This was their history, actually. This was their history to them. But yeah, where was I going with that? The Fae they're neither bad nor good. They just are. They're just spirits. They are mischievous though, but they're neither bad nor good. But you do have the 𝗔𝗕𝗁 court, or the 𝗕ecie court, and the 𝗪cie court, which this 𝗕cie court has power during spring and summer, and they are quote unquote good. They are quote unquote, I'm not going to say good, they're light. And the 𝗪cie court has power dominance during the fall and winter, and they are dark. And honestly, you can be of the light and be evil. You can be. And you can be of the dark and be benevolent. It's really about individuals. But so I say that to say, like, they are cut from the same cloth. So they dug too deep, and they went looking for a source. They went looking for a source of power to help them do the stuff that they wanted to do, which was seize power and vengeance. And they found it. And so basically they just feed this energy that was in what the Hellenists, the Greeks and the Romans, would have called Tartarus. But it was in Tartarus for a reason, because it was in prison. It was supposed to stay down there. But they were able to use that energy by feeding sacrifices to it. And I'm channeling right now. They were able to use this energy by feeding sacrifices to it. If you know the entity that accepts human sacrifice, I did talk about 𝗵 or 𝗵𝗱𝗲 before. I believe that these are the same entity, but they might not be. But they fed the one who accepts child sacrifices, and this is why I said his childhood was sacrificed to 𝗵. One of my favorite priestesses on TikTok, 𝗪ᱽ, she is a priestess of Hecate, or Hecate, whatever you want to call her. but she's related to, she's just the Hellenist, I think, Greek goddess. No, she's the Roman goddess of witchcraft and like the matron of the underworld. But she says like those of us who like had to grow up really fast because we experienced trauma in childhood, like our childhoods were sacrifices of our bloodline so that they could like, so that we could do the work of being salvation to the bloodline as chosen ones of the bloodline, you know? And that made so much sense to me. That made so much sense, because you'd be really shocked and astounded at the statistics of people who have experienced CSA, especially by a family member or like a trusted member of the community. You lose your childhood after that. And that's exactly what this was. Those men may not have been his blood relatives, but they were supposed to be his guardians and his community. They were supposed to be a corollary to his family, and they abused him and they stoplighted him. And they put him into usury bondage in order to do that. I can't believe it. Like, I'm just so disgusted. It's just so fucked up. Like I just can't. I can't. But yeah, so this magic that they use is not going to be able to be used. It's not, they can't use it anymore. That's one thing that I was picking up. One, because the spirit that they were working with, some of these cults, a lot of these cults, the deity that they were working with has left them. He's abandoned them. He's not working with them anymore. This spirit in 𝗍𝗱 is called 𝗍𝗱, but it definitely has a different name. It definitely has a different name that y'all may know it by. There are a couple different names that y'all may know it by. But this all has to do with also like how during colonization they stole or were given by corrupt people with power the footstools of these African tribes and stole them. And if you've ever been to the Louvre, you'll notice that all that, like the bottom floor, basement level basically, is African art, and then other indigenous cultures are on the floors above that, and then the Western art is above that. And when I went there, I was just like, this is really weird and really fucked up. And I could see very clearly what was going on. It was very clear, it was very evident. But Spirit's like, yep. Exploitation of our spiritual practices, inversion of our spiritual practices, bastardization and corruption of our spiritual practices. And this was, my teacher says it, like 𝗍𝗱 was mad at us because I think because someone gave away the footstool, and so he left and like basically like committed a betrayal. But that's not happening anymore. And the other name for 𝗍𝗱, there are two other names. One is Yahweh, and there are actually a lot of different names. There's also, I mean, because Thor, he's the thunder god, Chongo, but also another name is, I'm just going to show you this card. And let me see if I can find it in this deck as well. The moon is at the bottom of the deck here. I want to point that out. Chongo, what do they call not Barbello, Baphomet, that's what they call it. That it's the same. It's all the same, according to my teacher, who is initiated. And basically, I'm trying to find this card because that figure, which has changed over the years, since it was introduced in Europe. Well, I don't know if it was the medieval times. I don't really remember. It's been a while since I did this historical research, but whoa, where is it? Oh, you know what? I know where it is. And we're gonna keep the moon here because it is about secrets. Here it is. This is based off of that, the symbology of that being. But according to my teacher, he's left. He's not working with them anymore. I guess that karma is resolved, and there's a reason why they're finally returning all of the footstools and all of the stolen artifacts. Our artifacts are not art pieces, they are sacred objects. And the destruction that they will face for what they've done, it's just like, I mean, I said that in the last video, what they're gonna have to deal with. But this is why I got the Magician in reverse, 10 of Cups. Their children, their descendants are going to have to walk the earth for 7 generations at least. I'm even hearing 77 generations as vagabonds and beggars. Walk the cosmos, walk the ethers. They will be receiving their just desserts, is what I'm hearing. Like, the tables have turned, the tide has turned. They're being removed of all of that power. So part of the reason why all of this is coming to light now, Pluto and Aquarius, is because these systems and structures that were built on this being's power have been disintegrated as we have shifted the frequency, the dimensionality of the planet into higher consciousness. Like, when you move up, you move out of these lower vibrations. And so the dark, the evil, the unsacred magics, the satanic magics that they used, they can't use that anymore. They can't use that anymore because we're no longer in, that can't access this realm anymore. And this is what they mean about like new earth, old earth. Like, as we are, this is what I see when I see the 2 of Pentacles and they're splitting apart from one another. That's what I see, is like we're moving out of that resonance. So it can no longer, anything that was built upon that is gonna fall. Anything that's built upon that is collapsing, it is falling, it is failing. This transformation is happening. And they're gonna have to toil for forever. No, well, that's what I want to say. That's what's coming up. And I think it's no joke, it's no coincidence that he has a Pisces stellium in his chart with Saturn, Sun, and Venus. I think I may have talked about Venus already in the last video. I really want to get outside soon. So yeah, we're gonna start wrapping this up. Because I think that so many of the messages came through. But yeah, they also were working with, yeah, I mean, I feel like they may have been tricked, actually, because of course it's a trickster. Of course, like, oh, I'm gonna work. Yeah, I'll help you out to serve my purposes. And of course there's a catch, right? There's always a catch. And it's like, but you can build all of this stuff, but then when we get to a certain time period and we get to a certain point in the cosmos, all of that shit is gonna collapse and like all at once immediately. That's very, very tricky and sneaky and petty, and I love to see it. I'm just like, Yeah, so with his North Node in Scorpio and South Node in Taurus, it's about complacency, to moving from a space of complacency to personal power. And complacency is also saying like, well, this is the way that it is and it's never going to be any different than that. Scorpio definitely has to do with cults, because cult leaders abuse power, and the different hierarchies of the cults like are abusing the people in the higher echelons, are abusing the people of the lower echelons. And he has come here to transform that, and it comes through spiritual healing. Okay, it starts within the spirit. That's why spiritual abolition is the foundation of cosmic wellness. And this is what will help you to be able to effectively manifest, because like you can manifest all you want, but you're gonna lose it just the same if it's built on a shoddy foundation, just like these mofos. That's the magic that they did. And we have moved out of that energy, and it is collapsing now. And it's like, why did they help? Well, some of them, some of them were corrupted, which was an inevitability because of the discord that was coded into the creation of this realm, this space. Oh my gosh, yeah. I wrote this in my notes with Fortuna at 27 degrees of Scorpio, Lilith at 29 degrees. Right? Where is this? No, in his progress chart, in Aries, you have Fortuna at 27 degrees, Lilith at 29 degrees, 28 Venus, and the sun is at 10. But we have a very powerful conjunction, not exact conjunction, but it is a conjunction that is part of this Aries stellium, where I picked up like he never imagined he could get free. But he is liberating himself with this through his actions, through doing, through just like showing up for himself and using his willpower and his personal agency. And it is getting to the point where he's finally going to be able to speak on it, but I feel like he might not. He, being all this Pisces energy, I do feel like innately he just kind of wants to like insinuate and give the subliminal messages and let other people pick up on it, like if you know type shit, because that is safer for him. And I do also pick up that parenting is going to be giving him a new opportunity to heal. One thing that I picked up, because I picked up a baby foot, the right foot it was the bottom of a toddler's foot. And I picked up, I wanted to know about this like marriage. I don't think he really wants to talk about that. Yeah, I don't think he wants to talk about that. So we're going to respect that and not discuss that. But I do think that, like, I will just say this much. Arranged marriages, sometimes you grow to love the person that you're in an arranged marriage with. And people of certain bloodlines, like, I talk about this a lot, how, like, I grew up in a very sheltered way, and it was very elitist, and the expectation was, like, my family exists as a part of a social class that makes up the 5% elite social. This elite social class is 5% of the population and holds 95% of the power, right? I'm doing my own atonement work too. And it was an expectation that, one, we really wouldn't like engage with the other 95% because they were, what was the term that was used? Those people aren't important, or like, oh, that's nobody for you to mess with, or basically to socialize or engage with. They're not the kind of people that we would be allowed to engage with, these people. And it was an expectation that, you know, we would all marry within those families that existed within the 5% group of the elite. And some of they're, you know, colonizers themselves, but then also some of the indigenous people. I am half indigenous on both sides, and there's definitely been a lot of anti-indigenous rhetoric and a lot of like being seen as less than, because both of my grandmothers are indigenous, even though my mom's mom had way more money than like the colonizer wife of my grandfather. They still saw her as being less than because she was indigenous, amongst other things. But yeah, and so in families like this, there's a lot of, you know, people marrying their cousins, whether they're like, usually not first cousins, and one might even hope not second, but people don't bat an eye at third or fourth. So even if it's not like overtly arranged marriages are not as uncommon as people think in traditional societies. Because I know in many different Asian, including South Asian and East Asian, like many different Asian cultures, they have arranged marriages, and that's just normal. But what a lot of folks don't know is that the quote-unquote elite definitely do arranged marriages. And they have their reasons for doing arranged marriages. And, you know, I will also say that people of these bloodlines may look nothing alike. I'm a crystalline, and these people are crystallines, and like, this young man looks nothing like me. He does not have the same cultural background as me, because when these bloodlines were started thousands of years ago, do you know how many generations that is? And they're like, I'm hearing that phrase of like dandelion seeds, like blowing a dandelion and the seeds traveling all over the world. If you know anything about migration patterns, it's just like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, and like, we live in a global society now, so people of the same bloodline may not look anything alike, and they may not have like, you know, the same last name, or even come like from the same country, but they're still carrying that DNA. And I'm hearing mitochondrial DNA. It's passed down through the mother line. And this is the Christos, the crystalline, the Christos lineage. And some of these people, you know, yeah, that's all that he wants to say about that. That's all he wants to say about that. What's done in the dark is coming to light. There is healing coming to the collective. Okay. Okay, are there any more messages that want to be conveyed? I feel like I kind of touched on everything. If you've ever seen the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, she's called the Herald of Hell. She is the daughter of Lucifer and a human. Like, the witches got their power from Lucifer, but initially they got their power, and so when he was mad at them, he took their power away. But because they stopped praying to him and started praying to Lilith. But Lilith was not a celestial, so she couldn't give them powers. So then they started praying to Hecate, and Hecate gave them their powers back, and they didn't have to do like the kinds of sacrifices that he was requiring that they do. But then there were also the mortals who didn't have any powers, and 𝗵𝗿𝗱𝗃 was Sabrina's dad. He was the high priest, and he married a mortal woman who was her mother. But Sabrina was not actually 𝗵𝗿𝗱𝗃's daughter, because she was the daughter of Lucifer. I mean, these are just like, this is from the apocryphal literature, and also the literature, like the old Judaic literature about like Samael impregnating Eve, and that's who Cain's real father is. Yeah, there's a lot of scholarly debate about that, and like scholarly theologian debate about that. But yeah, so it wasn't like Lilith was impregnated by a human man or a mortal man. A human woman was impregnated by the celestial Lucifer. Though he actually wouldn't be a celestial, he'd actually just be an angelic. Angelics are not celestials as far as I mean, they are celestial, they're from the cosmos, but like, it's not planetary. Okay, so he would be a celestial, never mind. And they called her the Herald of Hell because she was like, I don't remember what it was about her, but essentially what I'm picking up, she is the child not of God. He was the false god, that they called him that in the show all the time. He was the false god, not of God, but like of this celestial being. Like he was an angelic, he was a deity, he was a god, but he was not the most high god. And he wasn't even like, he was even below their god. He was even below the Abrahamic God, Yahweh. But he wanted to be like, anyway, the Herald of Hell, her birth and her initiation, which she didn't know that she was putting into place, was supposed to bring hell on earth so that they could take the hell realm and expand it onto the earth realm. And I feel like with this, it's saying like in my notes, I got changes he needed to make to be the change you want to make. Changes he needed to make to step into his power and destiny as a herald of hell / heaven. And that is to say, like with like ushering in this new age, ushering in the Aquarius age, the changes that needed to happen, the revelation of truth, and basically this like this split between New Earth and Old Earth, and this fight for the heart of the collective. The heart of the collective. It is about the heart, and it is about heart healing and activation of the high heart chakra, which is the portal to the crystalline realms. And we need to activate that in all people, and it is activated in the planet now. And this is why they lost, and they're losing, and they're scrambling before everything falls apart. I do think he's going to be mentoring, be the change you want to see in the world. So I do think he's going to be mentoring young artists, and not in the way that these sickos were mentoring, quote unquote, but like actually mentoring and actually helping people as a part of his healing. That's going to be a big part of his healing. Yeah, I think that's everything. So I hope that this was helpful. I'm grateful to be able to be a vessel for spirit and these kinds of messages, because it is actually like really important. You know, as 𝗪𝗪 𝗪𝗪 says all the time, like it's either believe me or don't. But honestly, I don't really care, because I know my truth. You know what I mean? And I think that he does have another message, and it's like, yeah, don't be so in such a rush to get to places, because, you know, trust God's timing, because everything happens everything in divine time. Like, if you are in a rush to do something that you feel is out of alignment or wrong, like, don't do it. By rushing to meet these by rushing into the illusion, like, you put yourself in harm's way. And that really speaks to what I was saying too, about like how I'm really grateful that I didn't get what I wanted, because I wanted to be, you know, in the entertainment industry as well, both behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. But I'm really grateful that like I chose behind the scenes, because it felt like what I should do. Four of Pentacles, there is a healing that is occurring. All of this karma like is being transmuted through us. I chose a different track, and I felt spiritually guided that way, and my ancestors, angels, and spirit guides protected me from a lot. And I thought that they were like, I was being sabotaged. I thought that like I was working so hard and I wasn't getting the proper recognition. But I got this in a channeled message that I did. I like had a prophetic dream about Northwest back in March, and it's on TikTok, go watch it. But basically, while those of us who know that we are meant to be, you know, world leaders in a certain capacity, and I did get, when I pulled his numerology, he is meant to be a leader with his, like, with the numerology of the number 1 as 10, the completion of a cycle and the beginning of a cycle. Definitely a twin flame divine counterpart person. If his wife is that, I don't know, but he's definitely one, and it comes with leader, independent, creative, the vanguard essentially of this new age. And we've all lived lives that we're supposed to live to tell our story for a certain reason. And so some people have gotten further in the industry to be able to tell that story. And I follow this person on TikTok, EMM. She's a singer. And, you know, she's doing very well for herself in her career, but she's not super famous or anything. And she talks about her own experiences. There are a lot of people who are definitely star seeds and light workers and chosen ones, earth seeds, supernatural, and they are coming out and talking about, on especially TikTok, their experiences in the industry and trying to make it, and how dystopic and how shady, let's just say, it is. And yeah, we need those stories to be able to tell these stories and to be able to piece together what is going on. And I will say for myself, like, I think that like all of this, for those who like had a different mission and who, like, you know, maybe you knew that you were supposed to be famous or whatever, you knew that you were supposed to be in the public eye, in the spotlight, if you will. It had to be gutted. It had to go through this process of transmutation in order for you to be able to come in, because you were not supposed to enter it with this kind of energy and this kind of abuse and exploitation still happening. Some of you were hidden by, I'm hearing the Most High. The Most High, like your angels, ancestors, and guides worked to hide you. The wastelands, that's what it was. Sustainability, slow down, tend to your garden. You had other work that you had to do so that you would be like fresh and pure and renewed when this new, in this new earth, in this new fertile ground, and you could come and you could speak to all of like your experiences, and not have to deal with the other things that our soul family has dealt with. The crowning, initiation, thresholds, birth, rebirth, a seat at the table. I think that says everything that need be said, really. I think that says everything that need be said. So I love you all truly and deeply. If you want to book an oracle healing session with me, If you want to purchase an astrology reading, a tarot reading, I have lots of different kinds that you can purchase. A past life regression, Akashic Records reading, if you want to purchase any of my workbooks and recordings of workshops that I've done. If you want to book self-sovereignty coaching with me, I prefer the term guiding. I guide you to your self-sovereignty and I help support you through the practice. I help support you in developing your cosmic wellness practice so that you can develop your sovereignty for yourself. I am just a guide. I am just a support, a friendly hand to hold, and someone who loves you enough to hold you accountable unconditionally. I do offer packages, and I just started offering that you can purchase. You can buy all that, you can book all that through Klarna, so you can pay in full if the price is a little bit of an obstacle for you. But I also offer for Black and Indigenous people and people of color and folks of other marginalized identities, such as disabled folks, S workers, queer and trans folks. Like, you can hit me up by email and ask about the discount that I offer. I offer discounts for folks of marginalized identities, and I do offer sliding scale rates. So that's my spiel. I love you all truly and deeply. I'm so grateful for anybody watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share with people that you think would really benefit from this message, and just take a lot of good care of yourself right now, because, you know, we've all been going through so much. If you're watching this when I'm recording it, we've all been going through so much collectively for years, and it's just been an onslaught. And I just want to let folks know it's always darkest before the dawn. I love you all truly and deeply.